Hi there, welcome to Transform Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2024 Wildwood 22ER ASX. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you are pre-wired for your Furon observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact our parts department. You're also pre-mounted for a Lippard collapsible stair system. It's just a stair system that's collapsible that can connect onto the back so you can periodically get up top to check all your seals and everything. And again, if you'd like to get set up with that, just contact your parts department. Then you got your range hood flap. Whenever you get to your campsite, making sure you have that undone so whenever you're running it, it is evacuating those fumes. And then whenever you're traveling, just pushing and snapping it into place. Sometimes it can. You gotta kind of look where you're snapping it so it's snapping into the right spot. And pushing down. Make sure I got it lined up. There we go, there's one. Like I said, sometimes you just gotta watch and line it up with the holes. Push into place like so. And it does close up. You got your furnace exhaust right at the back here, so whenever it is running, it is blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Then you got your standard 50 amp twist lock connection. You just take a note of that notch there. It does line up with this notch on this side. Once you line those two up, just pushing it firmly into place, 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. You follow that cord back, you do get your standard 50 amp plug-in. Now, some campsites may not have 50 amp service, so we do also include this 30 amp dog bone adapter. Just keep it in mind when you're going down to 30 amps of power, if you were to have a second AC installed, you couldn't run two at the same time. You could only run one at a time. But on a 50 amp service, if you had a second AC installed, you could. And then from 30, in case you had the unit at home, we also include a 15 amp park adapter. But really, when you're going down to 15 amps of power, it's really just to run your lights and your air conditioner. Your lights and your fridge. You aren't going to be able to run any air conditioners on a 15 amp service. You also have your city water connection, so if you're at a site with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It does pressurize all those lines without the needing to run your water pump. Then you do have your black tank flush right next to it. Reading the caution sticker, very important. And whenever you're using this, you do have the sewer connected and the tank open. Reason being is if you're pushing pressure into the tank and the pressure's got nowhere to go, it expands the tank and it could expand the tank to the point of cracking. So just be mindful whenever you're using it to make sure you're hooked up and open. Exterior shower, standard 751 key to open that up. Should come included with your unit. Twisting and opening that. You got your swivel shower head with hot and cold water. Last but not least, right at the back here, you got your service port for your hot water heater. So this isn't going to be like your standard traditional water heater. If you're winterizing it yourself, typically before with the tanked system, you want to look for bypass valves and bypass so the antifreeze can't go in it. This system, it is the total opposite. You want to make sure you run antifreeze through the system, of course with it being off. And then once you're completely done winterizing, cracking this pressure relief valve and leaving it open, so that way once the antifreeze gels up in those super cold winter months, the antifreeze has a place to go. It doesn't crack any of your coils. And then you do got this little 12 volt switch supplying power to the thermostat inside. Now coming to the driver's side of the unit. Pulling on this bumper cap, it is going to pop right on off. And then typically this is going to be where you want to store your sewer hose. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, and I'll show you that in a minute once we get there. But typically after your first use, this is where you're going to want to put it. Now you do have stabilizer jacks on all four corners, and these aren't like your standard ones. You always have to make sure whenever you're traveling, triple check to make sure that you do have these safety locks on. That way if you're driving down the road and for some reason one of them was to start lowering, they aren't going to drag on the highway behind you without you noticing. And then once you're getting to your campsite, making sure you unclip it. We include a manual tool. You can use a drill. If you're going to be using a drill or any sort of impact, just being very mindful on how much torque you put on it. Put that on there. Start running this foot down to the ground. You're going to want to unclip this notch here, this little clip. Allow that foot to go down. Now running this jack, So if it gets stuck on one, it's all good. Just back it off, start going again. The whole purpose is you want to try and have this arm as close to 90 degrees as possible. So just running that until you think you're good. So you're going to want to run it to that notch there, clipping it into place, and then running it until you feel that tension build up. Now that the tension's built up, you know you could be nice and level, and you'd have to do the same thing with all the jacks. And then backing it off is just as simple as making sure you're going up nice, locking it in place, and then of course reattaching your safety chain so that way it doesn't go down at all. So you're gonna notice this one valve here. This is for your galley kitchen sink. You'd have to open this to empty your galley, and the output is gonna be way up at the front. And I'll go over there so we can show you that. So you got your sewer outlet, taking and twisting this off. That'll allow you to see these ears. This is the same ears your sewer hose are gonna have. You do just hook that up like so. So that front valve way at the front there, that is for the galley. That's for your kitchen sink. Whenever you open that, you do also have to open this. So once you connect your sewer hose, I first recommend emptying your black tank, which is gonna be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. Once you're done emptying the black, pulling this valve does empty your gray tank, which is hooked up to your bathroom, so your kitchen sink and your shower. Once that's empty, you can go to the very back and open up that galley. And you also have to leave your gray open, because you can see it does connect into the same tube so that it can all drain. Again, with a stabilizer jack right at the front. Then you have a storage compartment, opening that guy up. Big storage space, goes right to the other side. You got your battery located inside this box here. Battery disconnect switch right at the front. With it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. If you were to turn it to the off position, the batteries would become disconnected from the unit. One thing I did forget to mention when I was talking about that Lippert stair system, this unit is equipped with solar, so the nice thing about that stair system is it will allow you to get up there, because you do have to periodically clean that panel. Then you got your propane right at the front. Typically, you can do everything you need to do just by flipping open this cover. Gives you access to both tanks right from the top here. But for the purpose of the video, I would just move this out of the way. Got your regulator right at the front. You got two propane tanks on either side, just opening them up counterclockwise all the way like your standard barbecue. Tongue jack right at the front, manual override up top. Now coming around this side, you got the bigger end of the storage compartment. That is where we have that standard starter kit. So inside, you got that 10-foot sewer hose, which I've already told you about, the 15-foot water hose standard, and then you got some other miscellaneous goodies, including a 15-amp park adapter. And then right at the front, you got the manual override tool for your tongue jack, that 3/4 inch drive tool for your stabilizer jacks in case you were wanting to do it manually. Coming up front, you got coax outlet. You do have a TV backer in case you were going to want to mount a TV here. Fresh water fill. Put a garden hose in there, turn it on. That's what fills your fresh tank, and that's what your water pump draws off. And then right down below the floor, you got this white valve. Opening that up does open up the drain for the fresh tank. You got your entryway door, but last but not least, let me show you, you got your two low point drains. So if you're leaving the unit for a while, don't want the water going stale or stagnant, crack these guys open. Drains all the water out of the lines. Another great way to use them is once you're done winterizing, opening these guys up, allowing all that antifreeze out. Then you can close them on up. Now to get inside, you're just taking that assist handle, pushing it up, pulling it 90 degrees, it'll lock into place. It will allow you to open up the door. You have to have your door all the way open. If you to get the stairs down. Stairs are down, I'll allow you to hop on inside. First thing you notice off on the left is going to be that fire extinguisher. Just like home, pull the pin and shoot. Up on the wall here, you got your solar controller. There is a bunch of different settings you can go into. It gets pretty in depth, so I do recommend going over the owner's manual for that. But we do have it set up just as a basic charge system, so it's going to constantly provide a charge to those batteries as long as there's sunlight. Right down below, you got your monitor panel system. So you got your battery, your fresh, your black, your gray, and your galley. Corresponding levels light up whenever you push each button. Water pump switch, that is what draws out of your fresh tank. Then you got a couple different light switches. One does some accent lighting on that back slide out. The other one does an awning LED strip light. Right down from there, you got your awning control. Pushing that button down allows that awning to start making its way out. Once fully extended, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hang down. So you got that flap starting to hang down and then that back of the metal tube, so you know that your awning's fully extended. Now if we were to start raining, you could take any arm from here, pull down at the center. It is going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now if you like that angle better because it allows for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm, just making sure you do push these arms back to straight before you bring in that awning. Another thing, whenever you have the awning out, always keep an eye on wind speeds because it doesn't take much to grab that fabric, and it could possibly rip your arms or bend your arms or rip your fabric. Dimmer switch, it does do all the main living space lights, and because it's a dimmer switch, if you push and hold it, it'll put the lights dim to bright, and wherever you let off is where the lights will stay. Now last, you got your slide out switch. Before ever operating the slide out, always double checking you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. Reason being, sometimes things inside can shift. And then of course, just making sure you have room on the other side of the slide out so you can put it out all the way. Pushing and holding the button, the slide out's gonna start making its way out. Once fully extended, you can hear the motors wind up and click. And there you go. So since we're right in front of it, you got your air conditioner. You can run it with these louvers open, in which case it will dump all its air into the main living space, or you can close them off, in which case it'll move the air through the ceiling ducting throughout. And I'll show you how to fire that up once we get to the thermostat. Inside, you got your main living space and your kitchen area right at the back here. Noticing these chairs, travel strap right to the wall. Whenever you're traveling, you want to make sure those are locked into place again so they can't shift and move around, causing damage or possibly damaging your slide out. You got your LP detector right in the middle of them, so if that guy ever starts going off, you're just getting to worrisome levels inside. So just turn off the main supply of propane, open up some windows and vents to ventilate it out a little bit. And of course it is very sensitive to cleaning chemicals, so if you're cleaning around it, typically it's probably just going to be that chemical, but use your best judgment. You got your main fuse and breaker panel right here. Whenever a breaker trips, it's going to sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And you got all your corresponding fuses on your right. Whenever one blows, there should be a little red indicator light letting you know which one's gone. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. One quick pull will allow them to retract back up. Storage all around. You got your sink with hot and cold water. And of course, mentioning the storage, always being mindful of drains and water lines. You got your microwave, which is pretty much just like home. Not much I'm going to show you there. You got your range hood. You can't run it on just the light, or you can have the light and the fan. Coming to your stove. So I'm going to mention this. Whenever you turn the propane system off, and you've had it off for a while, it allows air into the system so that when you turn the propane on, it can take a few minutes to purge all the air out of those lines. So the first thing I recommend when you get your campsite is just firing up the stove quickly. Reason being is it's the easiest way to purge all the air out of the lines, so that way if you go to fire your furnace or your water heater, it's not going to throw you any fault codes causing you any grief. To get this to light, you just turn it over to that high/light option and hitting the sparker. Of course, it did fire right on it because I had the propane system running just a few minutes ago. but sometimes it can take a few seconds to purge all of it out. Whenever you're purging it, always making sure that whenever you're having the gas running, you're constantly hitting that igniter so the fumes can't build up and possibly cause any sort of burnt air or anything. To get the oven to light is pretty much the same thing, but it can take a little bit longer. Again, if you've had it off for a while, you're just pushing it over to that pilot option, pushing and holding the knob in, hitting the sparker. You would get that pilot to light. Like I said, sometimes it can take even longer than the stove, so just be patient with it. And then once the pilot holds its own, you can turn it up to your desired temperature, and it does fire right on up. This is glass, so just be careful with it and always making sure you allow the stove to cool off before you flip it down. Then you got your fridge and freezer combo. Nice size. Right down below, you got your main temperature control. Clockwise all the way is its coldest setting. Anywhere before that is a warmer setting. You're going to notice some off-grid writing here. That is just telling you the most energy efficient setting to have it on when you're on battery power. You got your charcoal filter to help with fridge odors right here. We do sell replacement ones here at the shop if you'd like to get any of those. Again, just getting into contact with our parts department. They can put together a quote for you. And then you got your pantry. Light is on a motion sensor. Nice little feature. Got your 2 recliner chairs. Recliners are just on the right and left side. Now you got your entertainment center. You have a TV back here, so if you're wanting to mount a TV, you could do so. Running the wires through this little hole there. Behind it is going to be where you plug it in. I'll go over that in just a second. You got your Furrion soundbar. Pretty much just like home, minus the fact of having zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 will be interior speakers. Zone 2 will be exterior speakers. And then you do have your fireplace down below. Power button on the far right. The button next to that changes your flame color. Right in the middle, you got your different rock light colors. Second from the left, got your different heat options. So pushing it once, you're just going to turn that fan on. Pushing it again, you'll get onto low heat. One more time, we'll get you on high heat. And then you do have a timer that can go anywhere from 30 minutes to 9 hours. Power button on the far right again to turn it off. Now, this whole thing opens up. It's a cool little storage spot. Lifting that up, pulling that out of the way, moving that bottom latch. Always making sure you latch it into place whenever you're traveling. You can open it up. It does also act, it's got a corresponding magnet here at the top as an extra privacy for the bathroom. You notice you got your 2 plugins where you can plug in your TV. You are prepped for Wi-Fi if you'd like to go with that. Then you got your 2 cable satellite outlets, and then right next to that's this black button. It does turn the antenna on in the roof. It also improves radio frequency and cell phone frequency. I would always recommend turning it on whenever you get to your campsite, but of course turning it off whenever you're not using it, because it does draw battery power. You'll notice the sticker here. This is where you get access to that water pump. You got 2 little screws at the top, the 2 screws that go into the floor. This panel will pop out of the way, and the water pump is right there, and where you get access to the bypass valve for winterization, and you can stick your hose into your jug of antifreeze. Closing, and again, the light inside here is also on a motion sensor. Closing this guy off. Again, latching it back into place. You got these 2 doors here. They do work a little differently. Again, travel straps, making sure they're strapped, because if they're not, when you're driving, you're going to be slamming around, causing damage back and forth. Then you just close into the center like so. And then just open them back up. Again, travel strap them back into place. Then you get into your bathroom space. Light switch right on the wall here. Standard bathroom, pretty much hot and cold water at the sink and shower. Toilet. You got your main GFI plug right here on the wall. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look. You got reset in the middle, test down at the bottom. On the wall, you got your thermostat. Pushing the button once, it illuminates itself. If you push it twice, you can go to your fan speed. You can run the fan without any heating or cooling involved, just by going on high or low. If you push the button once, after that, you can go between your different modes. So you got cool, which is air conditioning. Whenever you're in air conditioning, you can run it on either high or low when it's in auto, Auto meaning it's an on-demand system, so once the room senses it's at its temperature, it's going to turn it off. If you have it on without the auto on high or low, it runs full time. If you go to heat, it's going to kill the AC and turn on the furnace. The furnace does only have one fan speed and it runs constantly. And then you got cool plus heat, so depending on what you have the thermostat set to is going to decide what it kicks in, either the furnace or the air conditioner. And whenever you turn the furnace off, it does run for an additional 3 minutes just to allow itself time to cool down. Then you got your thermostat for your water heater, Celsius and Fahrenheit with the press of a button. You can change your set temperature by going up or down. As an added safety feature, you're locked to 50 degrees right off the bat. If you push and hold the up button for 5 seconds, it does unlock it and it'll allow you to go up to 55. That's just to try and stop kids from scalding their hands. Then last but not least, we are taking a step into the bedroom. Light switches in the left. You got your versatile bed control right above it. You can either go up with it, in which case it raises the bed, or you can go down with it and it'll lower it. You got storage on either side, along with sleep app access in case that applies to you. There's also plugins inside there. Other than that though, that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.